This is Harry Davies for BloodyElbow.com, and I had the chance to speak to UFC featherweight contender Josh Emmett. I began by asking Josh what he'd been up to in the last couple of months, and how he's recovering from the injury he sustained in his fight against Jeremy Stephens.
Actually competed in Moscow, Russia in a little no-gi grappling match. That was kind of my first thing to test out to see how I'm feeling. And, I surprisingly felt pretty good. And that was the first time I went live in about 4 months. So it's getting there. And my whole thing is I would like to fight by the end of the year. If not the end of the year, maybe first thing in 2019.
Yeah, as you said about Russia, I recently saw on your social media you were there for a grappling match for ACB. I'm not sure if you're a soccer fan. Did you manage to catch any of the World Cup out there or not?
Yeah, we actually watched quite a bit of the games. We didn't watch any live, but we went to the Fan Fest, and man, it was amazing just seeing Moscow, Russia. So much history, and just the architecture was great. We did tons of sightseeing. We ate at some really good restaurants, and just the people were really nice. It was definitely a good experience, and I was stoked to do that. I wanted to go to a game, but yeah, tickets were just way too expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine. Obviously, in previous interviews, you've said, I believe you lost a feeling in parts of your face and suffered from the likes of vertigo following the KO loss. Obviously, since that loss, I'm just wondering, has your outlook on your own MMA career and the sport as a whole changed at all, given the magnitude of the loss, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it's, I still have my outlook. It's, I'm definitely hungry and I'm eager to get back in there, but I'm trying to, I'm trying to ease back into things. I don't want to jump back in too quick because I've seen, not only teammates, but I've also seen other people ruin their careers when they go back in there and you get like concussion on top of concussion. It can be a career-ending injury. So I'm going to play it safe, but it's, I don't know, it's just the same outlook, same vision. I still want to be a world champion. As far as the fight goes itself, I've watched the fight a few times. There's just several things that I would have done different, and in the future, I will do different. It was my first main event 5-round fight in the UFC with such a high-level opponent. So when I sat him down in the first round, instead of me going in for the kill like Stephens did to me, I kind of paced myself, whereas I would have completely just pounced on him and not worried about my gas tank in the later rounds because I know I'm in great shape. So that was my biggest, kind of thing that I've learned from that fight is just there's really, because things can change in an instant. So there's no reserve. I will not coast. I will not play it safe next time. If I hurt someone, I'll be all over them to finish the fight.
Yeah, that's understood. And obviously you spoke about the fight with Stephens and you felt his power in the cage. What's your take on his fight lined up with Jose Aldo? Who do you see getting their hand raised in that one?
I see Stephens winning, but as far as the power, it didn't hit any harder than anyone else I've fought. It was the shot that he caught me with. It was just right on the button, and those are the ones that knock people out and drop people like he did. It was just clean right on the chin, and it wasn't like a hard hit. He hit me with some hard shots in the first round, but it was nothing I haven't experienced or seen before. But I see Stephens pulling off a win against Aldo.
So I'm sure you were paying close attention to the events that unfolded leading up to UFC 226. I think it was last weekend. And obviously the fight in your division, the big fight with Ortega and Holloway being scrapped. And then I believe Stephens was offered to fight with Ortega, but Ortega turned it down. What are your thoughts on just that situation and Ortega turning down that fight that really might have not done that much for him in sense of progressing up the division?
Man, yeah, it's I guess it's just a hard position to be in. So I kind of understand where Ortega is coming from as far as taking a fight against someone he hasn't trained against on it was 3-day notice or 2-day notice, something like that. But then again, you have to take big risks for big rewards. My personal opinion, if that had happened to me, I would have took it in a heartbeat because, you're still going to perform. You're still getting paid the same. So he still would have got paid a good chunk of change. And then if he beats Stevens, then he's the interim champ and he's fighting for the unified title next anyways with more money. And maybe you would be able to get some pay-per-view buys off of that if you won the interim belt. So, but I do think it would have been a tough fight for him. And yeah, it's just hard unless you were, it's hard to say what they're thinking unless you're put in their shoes. But me personally, I would have took it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I see. Not that, like we spoke about just there, not that rankings usually dictate the matchmaking anymore. But looking at a potential opponent for your UFC return, I'm sure it's just anyone in the top 5. But is there anyone that you actually have in mind or not?
I really, just like I've always said, I really don't care who I fight. I've never turned a fight down. I want to continue to get better. I want to fight fights that will get me closer to that title shot. And in the end, that's my ultimate goal, is becoming a world champion. So whoever's in front of me, I've had my last fight was a small setback. Could have went either way. I almost got him in the first. He caught me in the second. It wasn't like a dominating fight. Like I said, someone's going to have to knock me out or submit me to finish me. Like, I'm not going to stop. No one's going to just sit there and beat me up for 3 to 5 rounds, whatever it may be. So really, whoever the UFC offers me when I come back, I'm ready for anyone.
Yeah. So obviously things are interesting now because your teammate Chad Mendes successfully made his return to featherweight by knocking out Miles Jury this past weekend at UFC Boys. Like we just spoke about there, you don't have your eye on anyone, but you just want to progress further the division. And that's exactly the same as Chad said. You just want someone in the top 5. Given that he's just returned, how does this impact your future at featherweight? And is it someone you've discussed with Chad, given that you're both in the upper echelon of that division?
Yeah, we've been training partners for over 10 years, and not only him, but I'm just saying any of my teammates. Like, I'm not going to fight any of my teammates or friends, but Chad and I have actually talked about this. We're not going to fight each other, but we were saying if one of us was a champion and one was the number 1 contender, we're like, hey, you never know. It could definitely happen. We do it every day in practice, and if we're both going to get paid well, there'd be definitely no hard feelings. But that's the only way you would ever see anything like that, is if one of us was the number 1 contender and one was a champion. Then hey, it would probably happen.
Yeah, so I guess it's not something that you would take just for the sake of, unless you were almost like you said in a championship position yourself.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the thing. Like, and even with that, we would probably do it. But I'm saying, would I want to? No. Would he want to? Probably not. I don't want to fight one of my friends or teammates. But if the money was right and we were both right there, it's for the title. We talked about that too. He's like, he said, hey, I like you guys, all this and stuff. But he's like, hey, if one of you guys are the champions, then we'll fight. And we were talking about it, so it's kind of funny. So what the hell?
Yeah. Obviously we spoke about, like you said, you don't really have an opponent in mind for your UFC return, but is there a specific date that you'd want to fight later this year? Maybe, like, say for example September. I'm pretty sure UFC 228 is lined up. Would that be too soon or not?
Yeah, probably too soon, just because I got suspended medically for 6 months, so I'm not even fit to start training again for another 2 months.
Okay.
So that's right around the time I'm going to start training, and then I definitely want to just kind of ease into it, not take too much risk, see how I feel, and then start incorporating, some sparring in October. Me personally, if everything goes well, I feel good when I return to practice. I would like to fight on the New Year's Eve card in Vegas. I think it's December 29th. But for some reason, if I can't do that, I want to get one in January sometime.
Yeah. So obviously that grappling match that we spoke about in Russia, would that be something that you're looking to do more of in the future, or was it kind of just a one-off thing whilst you have this period of inactivity whilst you're recovering from the injury?
Yeah, no, I would definitely, I would love to do that more often. It was, I got offered that opportunity. That was my first, I'm not a professional grappler or a super high level, jiu-jitsu guy, but I've wrestled in college. I can compete with anybody. So they offered it to me. I want to say like 3.5 weeks out, and it was a great opportunity. I've always wanted to go to Moscow, so it was a free trip for my coach and I to Russia. They took good care of us. Put us up in the hotel, and I made a decent amount of money for a basically like a wrestling match.
Yeah.
It was a 3-5s, and it was awesome. So if they asked me to do that again, I would take that too, because with the inactivity, it was nice to be able to make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So.
And obviously, going back to the fight with Stevens, I believe one thing that you said following it, obviously the knockout loss, it kind of overshadowed the stuff that happened with the fight, the late stoppage, the knee and whatnot. And I was just wondering if any follow-up has been given to, obviously Dan Mergliata was the official for that fight. Is that all like leveled out now, or is there anything that you kind of still want to get off your mind about that fight?
No, there was no. I've never heard from anybody, and I don't plan on. There's still no hard feelings. When people were asking me my thought on it, same thing. I definitely, some of the blows were illegal. I know it's in real time. It's fast. It's hard for the ref to see. Stevens is just throwing elbows, but it's just the principle. When he threw that knee, even though it grazed me, regardless if it missed by a mile, it's still an illegal knee. Like, if it makes contact, it doesn't matter if it half me, if it hit me at full speed, it's illegal. So rules are set for a reason. So it's just the principle. If that was stopped, and I would have had 5 minutes to recover, I would have recovered, because it was the last two elbows that put me out and injured me. So I was fine up until that. So it's fine. No hard feelings on my end. I just want to get healthy so I can get back to fighting, and then eventually get that one back.
Yeah. And finally, just my last question. Obviously your teammate Cody Garbrandt's got a huge title fight lined up. I believe it's only about 2 weeks now. Will you be in attendance, or is that something you're just going to watch at home?
Yeah, I'm probably just going to watch from home. I would love to go, but it would just be more of an expense and everything like that. And like I said, my wife and I just bought a house. We're doing tons of stuff, so I'll probably just be watching the fight from home. And we have another guy on the card too, Benito Lopez. So hopefully those guys both pull it off. Hopefully Cody brings the belt back to Sacramento, and it's going to be it's an exciting fight I'm looking forward to, and exciting card.